Hello, YouTubers. Today, I want to talk to you about a very interesting subject. We want to talk about culture, we want to talk about people, we want to talk about the world, and we want to talk about innovation and software. We have a little problem in the world. We have a lot of people in the world that are super smart, and they can solve very complex problems and have very innovative ideas. But the problem with these people is that they're not able to write code. And the reason why they're not able to write code is because they don't know how to speak English. And it's hard for them, even though they have innovation, they have intelligence, yet they have to go over that extra obstacle because they were born in a place where people don't speak English as a native language, and they don't have the resources and they don't have the ability to learn English. And sometimes learning English for them takes them a long time based on how different English is from their culture and from the language. So if we look, I built a little bit of a graph here in order for you to be able to visualize what's going on. There's 1.5, our world is 7 or 8 billion people. There's 1.5 billion people that speak English. And the rest of the world doesn't know how to speak the language. They don't even have basic understanding of how the language works, and maybe they're not interested, right? Should that be a reason for them not to be able to innovate and come up with genius ideas and write code and software that can push the envelope of innovation to the next level? Let's see about that. If we visualized or represented the world in a form of 7 people, Santiago, Sasha, and Lynn, and Omar, and Aditi, and Carlos, and John, the people who know how to speak English would be just John. And the rest of the world, in order for them to know how to program and how to innovate, assuming that their way of innovating is through programming. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to innovate, but I'm talking specifically about software. I'm talking specifically about something that's in everyone's pocket, that is in everyone's life, programming and software. All of these people in this one room here have to go through that extra obstacle that may or may not on average take about 2 years, maybe for some reason, maybe a month for some people, in order for them to be able to have a basic understanding of the materials that are out there in programming. And then another year after that, in order for them to write something useful in code. Something is wrong about that. Can you see? This is not an optimum solution for innovation. This is not the way we want to allow people to have access to information and to have access to software programming in order for them to innovate. Today, most of the programming languages, if not all, are in English. And there is all of these people up there that don't know English. So they have to go through all of that in order for them to be able to write software. So I come up with an idea. Back in 2010, I had an idea about allowing programming to be more of a concept and allow people to contribute to programming in their own cultures with something in the middle that will translate that code from one culture to the other, right? So I went ahead and I put together a real super quick and dirty solution in ASP.NET MVC. And the solution basically, let me see if it's running. I think it's running. The solution, what it basically does, the solution is called Hello Worlds. It's Hello Worlds because we want to invite all of these people from all over the world to be able to contribute to writing software and express their genius. So if you go to the editor here and start a new editor, this is very dirty, so don't judge me there for the UI. This is just a concept, like a prototype. I want people, let's say my native language is Arabic, and I want to write code. I don't know English. I want to write code in Arabic, but I want that code to still compile and run and do something useful and also be understandable to all other cultures. I want people from India, people from Russia, people from Asia to be able to understand the code that I wrote on my native language. This is a lot easier in programming than natural languages because natural languages have very different rules, but with code, it's literally, by definition, it's code. So it's not expected to be or to look or sound natural. It's just symbols for things that we want to put together like an equation to accomplish something, right? So I'm gonna create a file name here, and then I'm gonna put in code in my native language. Now, before I continue with this, I want you to look at this. Let me zoom in here real quick. I want you to look at this and tell me, if you're not an Arabic speaker, this is completely gibberish to you. You don't know what this is. This is hard to understand, and you have to go through it and go to Google Translate, and you have to look at it and be like, I need to learn Arabic in order for me to be able to understand what this is. This is how over 6 billion people on the planet feel when they try to read your source code. That's a problem. That's a problem. And it's not hard to solve. And I'll show you right now what happens. So I wrote my programming language here, and I'm writing code in Arabic. And I'm going to leave this empty, and I'm going to select the language that I have written with is Arabic, and the programming language is C#, and I'm putting here a date and a user and whatnot. Now, here's what happens. If I click create, the software that I've written will go and pick that code, that Arabic code up, and translate it into a programming language that actually runs on the compilers that we use today. This is a compilable code that you can run anywhere you want. You want to see? This is Visual Studio here. If I go here and I say new file, and I write in a C# code, there it is. And if I go here and I copy that translated code into Visual Studio, like this, the compiler will say this is 100%, the IDE will say this is 100% good code. Software engineers, look at this and tell me, is this code good code or not? This is 100% good code, other than the fact that it says calculate and it's not really doing anything, right? This, let's go back to this. This, for people who speak Arabic, is a lot easier to understand than this. It's still code. It's not expected to be like poetry that you would read. Well, it could feel like poetry, but it's not poetry for non-software engineers. But it's understandable. They don't have to learn another language in order for them to be able to show you their genius. I guess their genius here is just to show you that they can write a function that returns the same number that you passed in. Not just that, but let's take this to the next level. It'll take this Arabic that translated into code and turn it into Hindi so my friend Sandeep can understand it. And turn it into Spanish so my friend Carlos can understand it. So turn it into Russian so my friend Igor can understand it. Right? This way we allow the most part of the world to reach a level of innovation, to communicate with us and to show us their genius without having to go through that obstacle called learning English. And there are a lot of smart people in the world that have a lot to offer. The only problem is they don't know how to speak English and they're not interested in the language. But they know exactly how to show you how to solve very, very complex problems. If we are very adamant and very excited about having as many people in the world learn software, then we should only give other nations and other cultures the opportunity to do the same without having to go through an extra obstacle. And it's not really that hard to do. And I'll show you right now how this worked. This is not hard-coded stuff that I'm putting in the back. I'll show you exactly what happens. We need to at least allow every nation to translate the terms in every programming language into Arabic terms or English or Spanish terms or Russian terms, whatever that language is, in order to allow more people to be interested in programming. In this example, because Arabic is one of the hardest programming languages, let me show you what I did. I created a dictionary here for the terms, the keywords in the language. You have return, public, integer, namespace, using system, and all that kind of stuff. But that's only for the programming language. There are two kinds of translations here. There's a translations where we said, let me go back here for a sec, where we said student, school, calculate, like this. This is natural language programming. This doesn't matter. This will go into a different route where we use services like Bing or Google Translate to go translate those actual natural language terms and turn them into its equivalent in English in order for the compiler to understand them. Although that is very, very evident that compilers like Scala or maybe sometimes C#, .NET, it could compile different languages as terms, but not with the keywords. So in my dictionary here, I have two kinds of translations. Let me show you the code real quick. I have two services in here. This is the code translation service. It goes in that dictionary. Of course, it passes the keywords like semicolon and whatnot. But then it goes into that dictionary and finds the keywords. But before it does that, it goes into a language translation service. This language translation service is, I have it here hard-coded, but of course, because it's a prototype, if you have an actual translation service here, it'll pick up every word. As you can see here, this is natural language. It just picks up the word and goes and translates it. Right? So there are two kinds of translations here. And at the end, it gives you that opportunity to see something like this. This should allow every nation on the planet, irregardless of what language they speak, to contribute to innovation in the world. And I'm looking forward to software companies, IDEs, editors, and people to contribute to this project. And to people from different nations, the smart ones that learned English and then also learned on top of it the programming, to go in and say, I want to help the people of my nation. I don't want them to go through having to learn English. I'm going to go ahead and put in all the keywords like I did in here and have them write the language in their own native terms and try to solve problems that way. I'm inviting everyone to contribute to this project. I'm going to put that prototype on GitHub. And I'm inviting IDE creators and online IDE creators to take their IDEs to the next big thing. To the next big thing. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to hearing your feedback.